Hello everyone. Today we'll explain Upper Moon Demon 3, Akaza's backstory. We'll talk about his previous life as a human and his role as the Upper Demon Moon 3. Before we start, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the video so we can make more videos about this in the future. Now without any more delays, let's start the video. Hakuji was born and raised in the slums to a sickly father who he deeply loved. In order to pay for medicine, Hakuji pickpocketed from people in town, but was caught 3 times. The magistrate beat him and marked him with tattoos, threatening to cut his arms off the next time he was caught and calling him a demon child. When Hakuji returned home after his 3rd beating, a villager informed him that his father, having heard of his arrest, hung himself. In the letter he left, he stated he wanted Hakuji to live a full life and didn't want to take medicine if it was earned by dishonest means. With his criminal tattoos and no home to return to, Hakuji was eventually banished from Edo. Devastated by the loss of his father and enraged at the society they lived in where he couldn't afford his father's medicine, he picked fights with people and beat them up. One day, after nearly killing 7 adult men in a village, he was approached by Kaizo, the owner of a local dojo. Annoyed by the man's cheerful demeanor, Hakuji challenged him to a fight, but was defeated with ease. Kaizo then took him in so he could nurse Koyuki, Kaizo's sickly daughter. Her mother, her previous caretaker, drowned herself due to stress, and Kaizo had to work handyman jobs to keep them afloat. So Hakuji was tasked with tending to her. Already accustomed to caring for his father, he had little trouble, though he found it awkward when she burst into tears seemingly at random. One of those times, unbeknownst to him, he had indirectly motivated her by telling her that there will be a next year to see a local fireworks show. One day, he discovered that Koyuki had been forced outside and left there by the heir of the nearby Kenjutsu dojo that sought Kaizo's land for themselves and prevented him from getting any students before Hakuji. Enraged, Kaizo and Hakuji fought the dojo, and after defeating 9 people, Hakuji made them promise to never get involved with the Soryu dojo or Koyuki again. The heir of the rival dojo became enraged and swung a sword at Hakuji, only for him to use his bell splitter technique and punch the side of the blade, breaking it. The other members of the dojo were so moved by the beauty of the technique that they accepted their loss and apologized for the rudeness of the heir, leaving the Soryu dojo in peace. 2 years later, Koyuki's health improved enough that she could stand and do chores. Hakuji continued training as Kaizo's pupil of the Soryu style, and the dojo began to grow. One day, Kaizo offered to let Hakuji take over the dojo and take Koyuki as his bride, to Hakuji's surprise and embarrassment. He agreed, silently vowing to protect both of them, even at the cost of his own life. At a festival, Koyuki told him of her past, asking if he was really okay with the proposal, to which he reaffirmed his vows to her, promising to protect her for the rest of his life. An 18-year-old Akaza. The heir of the rival dojo heard about Hakuji's marriage to Koyuki, so he gathered some angered disciples and fought Hakuji, but they lost. Tragically, this victory was short-lived. Hakuji went to visit his father's grave to inform him of his marriage, but quickly realized something was amiss upon his return. A student from the dojo informed him that the rival dojo had poisoned the well where Koyuki and Kaizo drank water from. The 2 died shortly after drinking the water while Hakuji was away. Enraged, Hakuji killed all 67 members of the rivaling dojo with his bare hands, pulverizing them to the point where their corpses were no longer recognizable. This incident caught Muzan Kibutsuji's attention, and though he was disappointed to find it had been a human rather than a demon who had done such a gruesome act, he decided to make Hakuji one of the 12 Kizuki. Hakuji, with nothing left to protect and having lost his will to live, accepts and becomes the demon Akaza. Demon life as Akaza. After transforming, he lost his memories of the time he was human and only had one single desire to become stronger, despite not knowing the reason why. Despite this, as noted by Doma, he refused to ever eat or harm women. Due to his strength, loyalty, and will to become stronger, he became one of Muzan's favorites and was only dispatched for special missions, such as searching for the blue spider lily. During his time as a demon, Akaza noted that he had met and battled several Hashira of the Demon Slayer Corps during his hundreds of years of life. During these meetings, Akaza had invited every single one of them to become a demon due to Akaza liking the natural strength, genius, and skill the Hashira had possessed, wishing to continue battling against them forever. However, Akaza was turned down by every single one of them due to them wanting to stay human, causing him much confusion as he could not understand their desire to stay human. Although not exactly specified, it's been stated by Akaza that each of the Hashira he battled didn't use flame breathing, showing that his battle with Kyojuro Rengoku was the first time he'd come across a flame Hashira. 50 years prior to his battle and death against Tanjiro and Gyu in the Infinity Castle, Akaza had come across and battled a powerful water Hashira of noteworthy skill and power in the usage of the breathing style, and successfully killed him. For the next half-century, he didn't come across anyone else of the same skill level until his duel against Gyu. Mugen Train Arc. Akaza appears shortly after Tanjiro, Kyojuro, Inosuke, Zenitsu, and Nezuko have defeated Enmu and rescued the passengers. Noticing a drowned Tanjiro, he immediately rushes forward to kill him, when Kyojuro stops the attack and slices his arm in half. Quickly healing the wound and complementing his blade, Akaza is then asked why he would attack an already injured person, to which he states he simply wants to rid him quickly before talking to Kyojuro. Deeming him as at the peak of his fighting spirit as a Hashira, he attempts to persuade him to become a demon. He states that as a human, he would eventually become old and die, whereas as a demon, he would continue to become more powerful. When Kyojuro repeatedly refuses the offer and refutes his statements, an annoyed Akaza declares he would instead kill him and activates Destructive Death, Compass Needle. Akaza and Kyojuro battle fiercely, with Tanjiro and Inosuke looking from a distance, both knowing that the two are on a completely different level of power. Akaza is repeatedly cut, but instantly regenerates his wounds, all while taunting Kyojuro by saying that the Hashiras he had killed had never once taken an offer to change. The demon launches himself into the air and hits Kyojuro with an air type, knocking him back temporarily, though the attack is quickly beaten. Knowing a battle at a distance would be difficult, the Flame Hashira rushes forward and tries to attack up close, though all of his swings are deflected and dodged. Akaza again taunts him for his weakening human stamina compared to his demonic physiology, and tries again to persuade Kyojuro to change, but fails again as Kyojuro repeats he won't become like him. They trade attacks again, with even Inosuke noting that if he tried to help Kyojuro, he would be too slow and killed instantly. Soon, Akaza starts making contact with his attacks, severely injuring the Hashira. All of Kyojuro's sword blows are futile with the demon's rapid healing abilities, and he starts to become desperate with multiple flaming breathing attacks. Akaza suddenly backs away, allowing Kyojuro to catch his breath, only for Tanjiro and Inosuke to see him bleeding profusely, in contrast to a completely fine and healed Akaza. Akaza once again taunts Kyojuro for his numerous injuries, whereas his had already healed instantly because he was a demon, and for fighting a losing battle as a human. Kyojuro's body suddenly becomes engulfed in fire, and he declares he'd fulfill his duty as a Hashira to the demon's confusion and wonder. Kyojuro decides he would try to injure him as much as possible, even if it means dying, and speeds towards Akaza with flame-breathing esoteric art. Akaza is amazed at his opponent's fighting spirit, and decides he wants him to become a demon so they can battle forever. Declaring that he's the Flame Hashira, Kyojuro uses flame-breathing, 9th form, Rengoku, and rushes forward. Akaza responds with Destructive Death, Annihilation type. They hit each other, with Kyojuro slicing Akaza's arm, torso, and almost through his neck, and Akaza driving his arm through Rengoku's solar plexus. Akaza desperately begs him to become a demon, knowing that the wound he inflicted is fatal. Amazed at his opponent's will to fight, he declares him one of the few chosen strong ones. Kyojuro refuses once more, remembering his mother's promise to him to protect the weak, and drives his sword deeper through Akaza's neck, even catching his fist when Akaza tries to punch him with his free hand, shocking the demon. The sun then begins to rise, and Akaza attempts to flee, but is held in place by Kyojuro refusing to surrender. Tanjiro and Inosuke attempt to aid the Hashira, Inosuke using Fang 1 Pierce to attack the demon. However, Akaza suddenly rips off his own arms from Kyojuro's body and stomps the ground, creating a shockwave to knock Inosuke away and giving himself the chance to flee. Tanjiro frantically gives chase and hurls his Nichirin blade at the upper moon, piercing his chest. Akaza hears Tanjiro's cries calling him a coward for retreating, enraging him as he mutters to himself that he was fleeing from the sun, not him. Deciding the battle over and knowing that Kyojuro will soon die, Akaza flees to safety in the forest, leaving Inosuke and Tanjiro with a dying Kyojuro. Entertainment District Arc. Akaza appears before Muzan and reports to him that he couldn't find the blue spider lily. Instead, he took down one of the Hashira. Muzan retorts that it was only one Hashira and declares his desire for all of them to be dead. Angered at his failure, Muzan takes control of Akaza's cells and causes him to bleed heavily. The Demon Lord mocks him for acting proud when 3 other Demon Slayers were still alive and when he could have killed them all as well, ending his rant by claiming even Upper Moon 3 was brought to the ground. When dismissed by Muzan for his failure, he takes notice of Tanjiro's nearby blade. Remembering how he had called him a coward, he furiously smashes it to pieces and declares he would spill his brains the next time they met. Sometime later, Akaza is suddenly transported to the Infinity Castle by Nakime. He is greeted by Gyoko and Hantengu, but is disinterested in talking to them. He asks the Biwa demon where Muzan and the Upper Demon 1 are when he's cheerfully greeted by Doma. Annoyed by his attempts to have a conversation with him, he irritably asks Doma to take his arm off him, then violently shatters the other demon's jaw when he doesn't. An unfazed Doma continues trying to talk, and even believes the attack was simply a sign of their friendship. Nakime answers his question and states that Upper Moon 1 is the first to arrive, who then announces Muzan's appearance. Muzan voices his disappointment in Gyotaro and wonders aloud why the Upper Moons are still around when they no longer have a proper purpose, shocking them all. Akaza himself doesn't respond, knowing his recent failure. Gyoko suddenly states that he has new information for their leader, and Doma unwittingly asks if he can participate in a mission, causing Akaza to angrily destroy his superior's head for disobeying Muzan's orders. Suddenly, his hand falls off, and Kokushibo appears before him, reprimanding him for disrupting the hierarchy. A regenerated Doma tries to calm down Upper Moon 1, but he angrily tells Akaza that if he wanted to take Doma's place and beat him, he should do so in a proper battle. A silent Akaza overhears Doma's statement that such a battle would be fruitless, since even the more recently turned Doma is far more powerful than he is, earning his ire. Doma continues to try to defend Akaza, but Kokushibo directly asks him if he understood what he declared. Akaza complies, but quietly threatens to kill him as well. As Kokushiba disappears, Akaza rushes out of the Infinity Castle, ignoring Doma's attempts at another conversation. Infinity Castle Arc. Tanjiro and Gyu are running in the castle, trying to find Muzan Kibutsuji and Tamayo. They've just heard about the death of Shinobu Kocho at the hands of Upper Rank 2, Doma. Suddenly, a tremor appears, shaking both the Demon Slayers. Tanjiro recognizes a familiar smell, and suddenly, the roof above them breaks, revealing Upper Rank 3, Akaza. Akaza is surprised that a weakling like Tanjiro is still alive, and shouts his name, with Tanjiro screaming his name in return. The fight between the three begins, and is a way for Tanjiro to avenge the death of the Flame Hashira, Kyojuro Rengoku, a man Tanjiro admired with all his heart, who died at the hands of the Upper Rank 3. As Akaza advances, Tanjiro dodges his punch, and uses the Hinokami Kagura, Fire Wheel, on Akaza, and with considerable effort, severs the Upper Rank's arm. As Tanjiro tries to recover, Akaza attempts to behead Tanjiro with a back fist punch, which Tanjiro dodges, and counters with the Hinokami Kagura, Fake Rainbow, managing to create a long cut on Akaza's face. Looking at this fight, Gyu is quite amazed and surprised by Tanjiro's sudden and quick improvement, comparing his abilities to that of a Hashira. Akaza remembers Kyojiro's words about Tanjiro not being weak and accepts it as fact, deciding to now acknowledge him by activating his technique development, Destructive Death, Compass Needle, and indicating the start of the real battle. Gyu finally enters the fight, immediately using the water-breathing, third form, Flowing Dance. Akaza is instantly impressed, as it's been 50 years since he ran into someone as good as Gyu. He uses his Destructive Death Disorder move, a flurry of punches that produce giant shockwaves, which Gyu negates using his own creation, water-breathing 11th form, Dead Calm. Akaza remarks that he had never seen this technique used by the previous Water Hashira he fought. Then, while Tanjiro tries to attack from behind using the Hinokami Kagura, Raging Sun, Akaza then appears from behind and attempts a backhand chop, but Gyu cuts his attacking hand with the water-breathing, second form, Water Wheel. Then, as Gyu attacks the upper rank, Tanjiro tries to trip Akaza by using the Hinokami Kagura flame dance on his legs. However, he's countered by Akaza's destructive death leg type Crown Splitter. Even though Tanjiro is able to block the technique, he's hit hard enough to spit blood. Akaza continues to battle Giyu and is impressed by the Hashira's swordsmanship, asking for his name. Giyu refuses, and Akaza replies that he would ask again and again, then kicks him with his destructive death leg type Explosive Flurry, launching him through multiple walls to another side of the castle. Akaza figures out the Water Hashira's name when Tanjiro shouts for him after he's blasted away by Akaza's previous attack. Tanjiro and Akaza then attack each other with the Hinokami Kagura Burning Bones, Summer Sun, and Destructive Death 8-layered Demon Core, respectively. Akaza praises Tanjiro's improvement and claims that Kyojuro did an amazing job, pleased with his death. This enrages Tanjiro and prompts Akaza to give his philosophy of how he hates the weak and wishes they were eliminated. Tanjiro retorts back by saying that even Akaza was once a child and that someone had helped him. He continues by stating that the strong should aid and protect the weak, and he wouldn't let Akaza do as he pleased any further. Tanjiro's words shake Akaza as he feels restless. Memories of Keizo appear, saying the same words. Akaza brushes it off and realizes that it was just a hallucination. Angered, he claims Tanjiro to be unpleasant and uses his destructive death, crushing type, 10,000 Leaves Flashing Willow, and becomes much faster as Tanjiro attempts to dodge. The demon surprises Tanjiro and kicks him with destructive death, leg type, Flying Planet Thousand Wheels, making him cough up more blood. He compares Akaza's precision to that of a magnetic compass and begins to think and deduce the right moves using the demon's moves and words. Tanjiro manages to dodge another kick by Akaza and attacks him with the Hinokami Kagura Solar Heat Haze. However, Akaza manages to avoid the technique, but a considerable portion of his neck is sliced, and he expresses amazement, asking Tanjiro how he swung his blade. Tanjiro attempts to use the Hinokami Kagura dance, but the sword is then clasped in Akaza's hands, and he attempts to break it. Tanjiro uses headbutts and kicks, trying to make Akaza loosen his grip, despite the demon not budging. Luckily, Akaza's hands are cut by Giyu, angry about the deadly kick Akaza had given him previously. Giyu's senses awaken, and a mark appears on his face. He easily dodges a shockwave punch and gives a quick slice of his own. Akaza dodges, but the attack slices a small portion of his neck. The demon acknowledges the increase in speed, as Giyu then surprises him with the sudden water-breathing fourth form, Striking Tide, vertically slicing Akaza's right arm. Tanjiro notices that Akaza has matched Giyu's speed, and wonders how Akaza's attacks are so accurate. He suddenly remembers the exchange between Akaza and Inosuke Hashibira, the latter explaining how he's able to sense killing intent, and how he can't detect people behind him if they have no killing intent. Meanwhile, Giyu and Akaza seem to be evenly matched. So, Tanjiro attempts to use the Hinokami Kagura dance, but is stopped by Akaza, who tries to use a back fist strike, which is dodged by Tanjiro. Using this opportunity, Giyu attacks the upper rank. Tanjiro finally gets a grasp about the truth behind Akaza's techniques. As the fight between Giyu and Akaza goes on, Tanjiro remembers the first time his father explains to him about the correct breaths and movements and about being able to see the transparent world, or Sikotoro Sekai, which one can achieve if the mind becomes invisible. He had demonstrated it by killing a bear while showing no killing intent. Tanjiro then manages to achieve this state for a short moment in time when Akaza attacks him, closing off his other senses and focusing on dodging. Akaza and Giyu are battling fiercely, trading blows with one another. The Water Hashira has used up all his forms during the fight, and Akaza proclaims that that will be the end of the Hashira, amazed at how long he fought for. As Giyu is about to attack the Demon's Fist, Akaza breaks Giyu's sword by using the Bell Splitter technique, and attempts to punch through him. But his arm is severed by Tanjiro, who had managed to enter the transparent world. The demon notes the changes and tries to kill the young slayer. Giyu then takes this moment to attack him, but Akaza uses his strongest technique, Technique Development Final Form, Blue-Silver Chaotic Afterglow. Meanwhile, Tanjiro is able to see everything move slowly in the transparent world. Akaza is unable to notice that Tanjiro was behind him, and Giyu hopes that he goes for the neck that instant. However, Tanjiro calls the demon out, and Akaza turns to strike, but Tanjiro dodges. Akaza could not detect his fighting spirit via the compass, and Tanjiro manages to decapitate Akaza with the Hinokami Kagura Setting Sun transformation. Akaza was bewildered, wondering how Tanjiro didn't have any fighting spirit, comparing this feeling to fighting against a plant. He acknowledges that Tanjiro had surpassed his speed. He realizes that the domain of supremacy is nothing less than the transparent world and a selfless state. He then tries to attach his head back to his body, but Giyu throws his broken sword, piercing the head and separating it from the body. Akaza's head then disintegrates, but his body continues to fight. Tanjiro dodges his chops, but is thrown aside by the demon's kick. He tries to get up and fight, but the stress and exhaustion of the fight cause him to pass out. Giyu tries to protect Tanjiro with the water-breathing fourth form, Striking Tide, slicing the headless body in various regions, but the demon regenerates faster than he can cut. The two begin to trade blows, and although Giyu is badly hurt, he still focuses on protecting Tanjiro, giving Akaza vague memories of Keizo. As he advances, he's stopped by the teary-eyed spirit of his human self's deceased fiancée, Koyuki, telling him to stop. Giyu continues to stand up, burdened with the desire and goal to not let his friends or family die in front of him, like his sister and Sabito. Akaza was held by Koyuki's hand as his head continues to regenerate. Akaza begins to remember why he had wanted to become strong, and thinks back to the time he was the demon child Hakuji, from his father's death to meeting Keizo and Koyuki. He remembers trying to find a purpose and reason in life, finding someone to protect. His memories of his past suddenly come rushing back. During this, Tanjiro manages to wake up, and Akaza's head was halfway recovered. The demon then attempts to kill Giyu with his destructive death, Annihilation type, and Tanjiro rushes to stop him, but his sword slips, and he punches Akaza, causing him to question his current deeds and regret sullying his master's precious style. As he prepares his technique, Tanjiro tries to pull Giyu away, but with a smile of gratitude on his face, Akaza uses the technique on himself, mutilating and pulverizing himself and reducing many parts of his body to bones. Akaza admits defeat, stating that Tanjiro's technique was magnificent and that he wants to go to hell like a man. He imagines his father and Keizo, but when he remembers Muzan asking if he wanted to get stronger, he begins to regenerate. However, he's stopped by Koyuki, thankful about Hakuji recovering his memories and thanking him for what he had done. Finally finding peace, Akaza disintegrates, dying as Hakuji, a loyal son, a protective student, and a faithful lover. Hakuji reunites with his father, Keizo, and Koyuki in hell. Tanjiro is glad the battle is over and wants to reach Tamayo, but he faints again. Giyu also loses consciousness and slumps onto his sword out of fatigue. Akaza's death is spread by a crow and was heard by all the upper ranks. Kokushiba laments that he couldn't get any stronger and calls him weak. Doma begins to openly weep and mourn his best friend, though his actions are later proven to be a facade. Shortly after the fight against Kanao and Inosuke against Doma, Ganjiro wakes up with Giyu cauterizing his wounds and receives knowledge of the death of the upper rank too.